Tele School. तालीम घर घर.
I love reading stories. They take me to new places and introduce me to interesting people, all without having to leave my room. I decided to create my own world by writing a story. The main character will be Fatma, and the story will be about her adventure. Here are my first few sentences. Fatma found a key in the garden. She unlocked a trap door hidden under some bushes. She opened it and started walking down a winding flight of stairs. At the bottom, she met a few talking animals. She realized she had been hearing their voices from her bedroom window for the past few days. What do you think of my beginning? I showed these sentences to Miss Asma. She told me it's a good start, but it needed a lot of improvement. She gave me several tips. I first needed to decide what genre my story belonged to. As Fatma is the main character of my story, I needed to have some idea of her personality. I need to describe the place or the setting of my story in greater detail. Readers need to feel like they're in the place, not just reading about it. I also needed to think about characters in the story besides Fatma. My plot had to be more organized. Miss Asma told me I needed to plan the events of my story. She said that the talking animals in my story were exciting, but I needed to build that excitement slowly among the readers from the start. The point at which the excitement or suspense or sadness of a story is highest is known as the climax. The story should end soon after. This advice was very useful. But how was I to keep track of all these points? Miss Asma gave me a story organizer so I could write an outline of a story first. This organizer is my map. Just like drivers use maps to reach their destinations, I use this organizer to plan my story, so I don't get lost or stuck while writing it. Let me fill this organizer with the outline of my story. This is an adventure story with some drama. Fatma is a curious girl who's constantly getting into trouble. Some talking animals and a witch will be the other characters. The setting of the story is her grandparents' house. The house is right next to a forest, far away from any city. Most of the story will take place underground. How do I start building excitement like Miss Asma had said? I know, Fatma had been hearing whispers outside her bedroom window for a few nights. One night, she snuck outside to investigate. Now comes the part of her finding a trapdoor and going down the winding steps. Now what? The talking animals all look scared and ask if she can help. Their friend, Coco the cat, has been kidnapped by a witch. Fatma goes to the witch's house. How does she rescue Coco? I know. The witch asks 3 riddles and Fatma answers all 3 correctly. The witch releases Coco and all the animals are very happy. Fatma spends time with them in the world beneath the trapdoor for the rest of the vacation. That's it. Now that I have an outline, I can fill in all the details and make the story as interesting as possible. You can write great stories as well if you create an outline first. You can use this organizer. The more you write, the better you'll get. Let me show you the story I wrote using my outline. Is it exciting?
मिलते हैं एक छोटे से ब्रेक के बाद। चलें अब चलते हैं वापस अपने लेसन की तरफ।
Asif, how was your day?
It was just regular. I'll tell you about it. I walked to school in the morning. I studied in class. I talked with my friends and played football during break. On my way back from school, I stopped by the door. I noticed Dada Jan's stick on the ground, so I carried it inside.
You're right. That is just a regular day. Do you notice something about all the verbs that you said?
Hmm, they're all in the past tense.
You're right, they are. But what about their spelling?
They all end with ed.
Exactly. Verbs of the past tense that end with ed are called regular verbs. Let's look at the first form of the verbs as well to see how their past tense is formed. There are four rules to remember here. Before I explain them, can you tell me what vowels and consonants are?
Sure, A, E, I, O, and U are vowels. All the other alphabets are consonants.
Exactly. Normally, if the verb ends with a consonant, we add ed at the end. So walk, talk, and play become walked, talked, and played. Crawled is one more example. Now, when the first form of a regular verb ends with e, like notice, we simply add d at the end for the past tense. Baked, freed, and smiled are other examples.
Let me think of the rule for the next one. If the verb ends with a consonant and y, we drop y and then add ied. So study and carry become studied and carried.
You're right. Tried and cried are other good examples. Lastly, if the verb ends with a vowel and a consonant, we sometimes double the consonant. So stop becomes stopped. Clapped is another example. Remember, the consonant is not always doubled, as fixed and visited show.
Okay, I'll need to review all these rules.
Let's do it right now. One more thing about regular verbs. They have a third form known as the past participle form as well. The spellings for these are the same as the spellings for the second form.
Verbs make sense now. But Sarah, do we also have irregular verbs?
We do. What do you think these are?
Hmm, they are verbs in which the past tense does not end with ed.
You're right. So the past tense of eat is ate, Write is wrote and buy is bought. As you can see, the past tense does not end with ed. I'll tell you about my morning, which was not regular, and I'll only use irregular verbs. I woke up late. I sat down for breakfast but fell by mistake. I drank some juice, but I felt sick afterwards. I went to the hospital with Ammi and Abbu.
Wow, that is an irregular morning. I hope you're feeling better.
Yes, I took some medicine, so I'm fine now.
So, what are the rules for spelling the second form of irregular verbs?
There are no rules. You just have to know the spelling of each irregular verb separately. Also, the third forms of irregular verbs are sometimes different.
Thanks, Sarah. You showed me several examples of regular and irregular verbs. I've understood most of them.
टेली स्कूल तालीम घर घर
Ah, my children are back from school. How was your day?
Salam, Dadajan. School was so much fun today.
Salam, Dadajan.
Why the long face, Asif?
I'm a bit confused.
Why, my boy?
Today, Miss Asma asked us to write sentences on what we did over the weekend and to read them aloud.
So,
When it was my turn, I told her that I bought and I watched over the weekend. But Miss Asma felt that the sentences were incomplete and suggested that I add objects to both sentences to make them complete and meaningful.
Oh, Miss Asma was probably talking about transitive and intransitive verbs.
What are those?
beta, there are two types of action verbs, transitive and intransitive.
A verb is transitive when the action it expresses is directed toward a person or thing named in the sentence. Transitive verbs need direct or indirect objects to complete a sentence. For example, Sumaira kicked the ball. Hassan moved the sofa. Salma called the police.
But what's an object?
Generally, an object receives action from someone or something. There are two kinds of objects, direct and indirect. A direct object immediately follows the verb, such as Sania likes books. Shumaila opened her handbag. An indirect object names the person for whom or to whom something is done. For example, Sania gave Vikas a piece of her mind, or Shumaila owes me 10 rupees. In all the examples Sarah mentioned, the action passes from the doer, the subject, to the receiver of the action.
But how do we know if a verb needs an object or not?
Great question, Asif. To identify the object of a verb in a sentence, always ask two questions: what and whom. Looking at the earlier examples, let's ask: what did Sumaira kick?
The ball,
What did Hassan move?
the sofa,
Whom did Salma call?
the police.
And what are ball, sofa, and police in these sentences?
They are objects because they are being acted upon by the subjects Sumaira, Hassan, and Salma.
Excellent. Since all these sentences have an object, the verbs kicked, moved, and called are transitive.
So, Miss Asma thought your sentences didn't convey a clear meaning because there were no objects. Unless you add details like what did you buy or what did you watch, your sentences will not make sense.
Yes, I realized that I should have said, I bought a cricket ball and I watched a comedy show over the weekend.
You're right. Now let's look at intransitive verbs.
What are they?
An intransitive verb shows action without an object. It works on its own and does not require an object to complete a sentence. For example, the fairy disappeared. The sun shines brightly. Asma fell from the tree.
This seems a bit complex.
No, it's fairly simple. In the sentence, the fairy disappeared, fairy is the subject and disappeared is the verb. There is no object in the sentence. Now, look at the next two examples. The sun shines brightly and Asma fell from the tree. Notice that shines and fell don't have any objects to receive the action.
But aren't brightly and from the tree objects?
No, silly. Brightly is an adverb, and from the tree is a prepositional phrase.
From the tree is a prepositional phrase because it starts with the preposition from, right?
Exactly. If you just said Asma fell, that would be right too. Intransitive verbs can be followed by adjectives, adverbs, and prepositional phrases. These are called complements. Remember that complements are not objects. The verbs shines, disappeared, and fell are intransitive because they don't need an object to add meaning to them.
I see.
Interestingly, some verbs can be both transitive and intransitive. They are called bitransitive verbs.
You mean they can take an object or not?
Yes, the same verb may take an object and be transitive in one sentence, but it may be used intransitively in another sentence, where the emphasis is on the action rather than on the person or thing affected by it.
Often, the same verb changes meaning in the transitive or an intransitive situation. For example, Hamid runs a store means that he manages a store. However, Hamid runs to the store conveys a feeling of movement.
Thank you for that very useful explanation, Sarah and Dadajan.
Glad to help. To recap, there are two types of verbs, transitive and intransitive.
A transitive verb requires an object. An intransitive verb does not require an object and is often followed by a prepositional phrase or an adverb.
You got that right, Asif.